Okay, so we are back with our 2020 Duke 200 we got from KTM BGC, and today we are going to review this bike and compare it with our own KTM motorcycle, the 2018 Duke 390. I know a lot of you will question why we are pitting two bikes from totally different categories, but let me assure you, a number of us, especially those who are new to motorcycles or just wanting to upgrade to a proper manual standard bike, are having a hard time choosing between an affordable starter bike versus getting one that is already expressway legal bike, but with a very limited budget. So here we are as we try to address the question, is it worth buying a brand new 2020 Duke 200 if you can buy a second-hand Duke 390 for the same amount of cash? So let's go! Okay, a little backstory. I have been driving small bikes for many years until I decided to switch to a manual standard motorcycle. So I bought myself a brand new first generation Duke 200, which only after a year, I sold the bike and got myself a Duke 390. You'll find out later why I decided to sell the Duke 200 in favor of the Duke 390. But first, let's do a quick overview for both bikes. The second generation of the Duke 200 has been completely revamped and received a very fresh and modern look, getting a semblance of the beloved second generation Duke 390 with its angular designs and exposed trellis frames, making itself a very aggressive looking street bike available in the market today. While most of the mechanicals remain practically the same from the old Duke 200, with still the same engine power ratings of about 26 horsepower and 90 Nm of torque, and same suspension setup with very minor tweaks on suspension to improve riding comfort, the visual redesign of the bike and the introduction of the much coveted ABS safety feature made the bike totally enticing to relatively newbie riders who wanted to have their first taste of what they can call a big bike, or at least from their perspective. All these you can get from a brand new 2020 Duke 200 at a price of around 169,000 pesos. However, in the view of the local context of the term big bike here in the Philippines, where a motorcycle can only be considered a big bike when it can travel legally in the expressways, the Duke 200, while it can be mistaken for its bigger brother the Duke 390 in terms of appearance, is still lacking in this area, even if its power ratings are comparable to other 400cc bikes such as the MotorStar Cafe 400. Such shortcoming will come into play later on as we discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the bike as we go along. On the other hand, the second generation Duke 390 has been around since 2017 and has very minor improvements in every iteration since it was released then, mostly on the electronics. To say the least, the 390 was already packed with features and technologies to begin with, such that only limited additional features may be needed to make this bike even more enticing. But while the aesthetics alone will convince people to buy this bike, the performance the bike delivers will seal the approval of would-be buyers. Even if the horsepower of the 390 is short of twice the horsepower of the Duke 200, the torque of the 390 more than makes up for this, having twice that amount of torque as that of the Duke 200. And boy, that would make every Duke 200 user have second thoughts of sticking to their bike and consider upgrading to the 390. And honestly, that is what happened to me. But enough of me. So for most cases, with the same price of a brand new Duke 200, you can get a used unit of the first generation of the Duke 390, but it is also possible to chance upon a 2017 model second generation Duke 390 for the same price. Or even better, add a little thousands to your budget, you'll get to broaden your search to a 2018 model if you're lucky. Okay, let's do a quick comparo of the bikes, starting with the looks. It is quite evident that both second generation of the Duke 200 and the Duke 390 are practically mirrors of each other to an untrained eyes. In reality, if literally placed side by side, one would notice that the Duke 390 has slightly larger body dimensions than the Duke 200, even if those differences could be passed off as quite negligible. However, when you look at it, it may not be that negligible at all. Well, for one, the seat height of the Duke 390 is taller by around 25 mm than the Duke 200, and likewise heavier by more than 15 kilograms. It may not sound much, but in terms of rideability, those little details will make the Duke 200 a much more friendlier bike to a newbie rider, especially to height challenge Pinoys, with the bike being lighter and easier to handle. This is a win, especially if you plan to make this bike as a daily commuter expected to handle the usual horrendous traffic conditions of the metro. But not to say that the Duke 390 will fare behind by a far. In reality, by the standards of big bikes, the Duke 390 stands out as one of the lightest bikes to haul around Metro Manila traffic. Now, speaking of rideability, as we mentioned, the light and nimble Duke 200 may seem to have the advantage in city traffic commute. However, on open roads, one would appreciate the stability brought about by the extra weight of the Duke 390, and of course not to mention the extra power that the bigger engine can churn out. Given that both bikes have the same body dimensions with same split chassis, we can only assume that both bikes' ride behavior are almost the same. Likewise, the presence of slipper clutch to prevent unintended tire lockup on sudden deceleration and better set of tires on the Duke 390 will add confidence in attacking corners more aggressively, something that is amiss to the Duke 200. And speaking of performance, well, quite obvious who has an edge. However, it is more a question of how the bike's power can be fully utilized. A Duke 200 has ample power to get it by in the city, and even a clear advantage over scooters and underbones on quick takeoffs and overtaking. And with that, a good fuel consumption claiming an average of 40 kilometers to a liter. That is quite impressive considering this bike is a 200cc bike. However, it pales in comparison during out-of-town trips wherein it would find it hard to catch up with other bikes, and on occasions being overtaken by modified scooters. And as my previous sentiments before, it may look like a big bike, but I will have to content myself traveling through national roads and deal with the traffic just like any other bikes of smaller cc's, just because it cannot take the expressways because it is not expressway legal. Not a problem with the Duke 390 though. The proverbial problem with the Duke 390, on the other hand, is its overheating issues, especially during traffic. Or at least that's what they say. But something I haven't really experienced with my own 390 though, so that is something that can still be disputed. And do we need to even list down the premium features that can be found only in the Duke 390, such as the TFT display, sharp LED headlights, adjustable leathers, among other things. But then, a very major factor into consideration is the financial capability of the buyer of the bikes. Since the Duke 390 can only be bought used, in most cases it will have to be purchased with cash on hand. And that is a very limiting option for quite a number of folks with limited budget. And given the nature of the bike being second-hand, one should prepare for possible maintenance expenses that may follow, even for a good conditioned bike. And knowing that KTM parts are rather on the expensive side, it may definitely be a turn-off for potential buyers, especially for those who are quite new to motorcycling. This is not a problem with the Duke 200 though, where one can avail of it either straight cash purchase or through financing, with the first years of the bike under warranty for some peace of mind in the process. With all things said, if we go back to our main question, is it worth buying the new Duke 200 over a second-hand Duke 390 for the same budget? Well, I guess it all boils down to who will be buying the bike. Overall, the latest Duke 200 is a very nice bike, and its best use is probably as an urban motorcycle, where its lightweight and nimble handling would make it a terrific daily commuter. The peace of mind one gets from a warranty of a new bike will be a big bonus, especially to someone who is new to the motorcycling world. However, for an enthusiast who is buying a motorcycle as an upgrade, especially when coming from smaller scooters or underbones, and wanted to get into the big bike category, it would be best to go straight to a Duke 390, even if it is a used unit, knowing from experience that the inadequacies in the power of the Duke 200 will somehow drive the buyer to upgrade sooner or later. But at the end of the day, you can never go wrong with these two bikes. Always remember, you buy the bike that would suit your needs. So I guess that's it. I guess I'll end my vlog here. If you like this video, do hit that thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, do subscribe to BossTL PH and click that notification bell to be notified of our new uploads. Again, as I always say, stay awesome, stay safe, see you in my next episode. Bye for now.